social justice to global events, and many more. We cover them all. Join our live audience or connect with us online to voice your opinions and ask challenging questions. Get ready for Prime Discourse, a news and current affairs political show that will leave you informed and engaged. Prime Discourse on Midas Radio 90.5 FM.
AMAC this, AMAC that. The Abuja Municipal Area Council election has suddenly wrapped up after weeks of nationwide guesses and suggestions of its likely outcome. Now we have an outcome. But the real question is, was the council election in Abuja a dress rehearsal or an isolated contest? 5 out of 6 chairmanship seats went to the All Progressives Congress, APC, with just one secured by the People's Democratic Party in Gwagwalada, while the African Democratic Congress, ADC, was completely outplayed. As we know, the APC won the chairmanship seats in Buari, Abuja Municipal Area Council, Amek, Kwale, Abaji, and Kuje Area Councils. It is the president's backyard, the nation's capital, the seat of power. So naturally, Nigerians would ask, is this a covert blueprint for 2027? Was it a genuine reflection of voter choice or warning sign? There were allegations of vote buying, claims of intimidation, reports of apathy. The PDP has assembled a legal team. The ADC has cried foul. At the same time, the newly enacted Electoral Act 2026 promises tougher sanctions, financial autonomy for INEC, and structural reforms. So what really played out at the Abuja municipal poll? And more importantly, what does it tell us about the general elections to come? I'm joined this morning on Prime Discourse on Midas Radio 90.5 FM at Duikiti by a public affairs analyst, well-grounded and well-seated at the seat of power. By that I mean Abuja. Dr. Gabriel Otu. Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning to you, Dr. Tu. Thank you for joining Prime Discourse on Midas Radio from Adoekiti here.
Thank you, Madam Bukola. It's a pleasure to be online with you.
All right. Thank you very much. So if you listened to my introduction, we just like we spoke about earlier, yesterday and even this morning, that we'll be looking at what happened, what transpired with the FCT municipal polls and what that will portend for further elections to happen in Nigeria. And so it's great to have you here to help us shed more light into the political process, or let's say the electoral process in Nigeria as of today. So let's start with this. Was AMAC a political barometer for our elections? Let's start from there.
Okay, as you rightly said, the FCT election is a direct result of what is to happen next year during the general election. If you look at it, the play out was already clear. From the APC, they knew what they were up to and they went for it. And then for the PDP, which happened to be the major opposition, they did their best to ensure that they did not lose ground. And that is what was exemplified in their winning of Gwagwalada. And then for the ADC, that was supposed to, based on their rhetorics before the elections and their social media mantra, they were supposed to have done everything possible to see that they have a foothold in FCT. However, their performance showed that they were not really prepared for the elections, because many of their supporters have reported that they could not carry out major mobilizations for participation, especially in areas like Jari, areas like Kuje. They could not mobilize, unlike what PDP and APC and some other even smaller parties did. And so, from all indications, elections were transmitted electronically. In fact, it was transmitted. So nobody, even the ADC, will not say elections were not transmitted. However, there were cases of vote buying as complained by PDP and ADC.
And ADC.
Yes, but then again, even APC supporters also said that they too were involved. And coming from the fact that the National Assembly passed some major reforms. One of those reforms was that vote buying is now a criminal offense. And we are to see how, if these claims of vote buying are substantiated and happen to be true, how the court of law will proceed with the prosecution of those who are found guilty. On the whole, there were reports that in the city center, there was low turnout of voters. That is explainable, being that majorly in the city center you have less residents, while you have many of the residents residing at the outskirts of the city center. So it will explain why you have low turnout in the city center and then you have high turnout in the suburbs. So, and then again, those in the city center may have also traveled out using the holiday and the weekend to visit families respective states. So this could explain why there was low turnout in the city center. However, there was reported case of high turnout in areas out of the Abuja metropolis. So far, the election has given a testimony of what the ruling party was able to do and is capable of doing. It has also given a template for opposition parties, PDP, ADC alike, to look at go to the drawing board and look at what they did and what they could not do, or what they did not do, and then start preparing against next year's general elections.
Okay. Now, for some areas that you also allude to that we recorded voter apathy. Does this not? Are you looking the way of residents not being interested? Don't you think that's also a factor, or do you just assume that it's because that's usually obtained in city centers where you just have a low number of turnout? Is it not? Do you not want to relate that to voter apathy? Persons not regarding local council elections. And let's look at that. From there, let's see what happens with local council elections across Nigeria.
Okay. Let's also, there was voter apathy, especially in the city center. One of the explanations is that many of the people or residents in the city center feel that their votes may not count, or they might encounter intimidation or whatever it is. And then another explanation is that majority of those in the city center are really non-natives. And so somehow they feel, after all, the local council elections are not really beneficial to us because we have nothing to lose. We are not really natives. But in those suburbs where you have natives, everybody is struggling because it affects them. If you watch, it is at the city suburbs you see the functionality of government schools, government hospitals. But in the city center you have private schools and private hospitals. Those ones can afford them. And so those at the suburb feel that it affects them directly, and so the turnout that will explain the turnout. In the city, even though the voter party could be explained as a result of the feeling that, okay, after all, even if we vote, and then also coming from the fact that there have been some protests regarding the electronic transmission of results, real-time transmission of results. And so that could also explain why it's okay, see, if they are not going to transmit results real-time, then what is the need? However, throughout the election process, results were transmitted electronically. And so there have not been any complaint that any result was not transmitted electronically.
All right. So do you now say categorically, or do you now define whatever happened with the APC sweeping the FCT? Does this signal national momentum, or was this simply a home ground advantage? I saw that you were careful with describing what happened with the APC there to say, well, it only showed what they could do and what, the others could not. So is this just a home advantage, or is it telling us about the national momentum? Hello, are you there? Hello, Dr. Otu, are you there with us?
Yeah.
Okay. So I said that. Oh, you heard me.
Yeah, I heard you.
All right, then. Go ahead, please.
On one hand, we can say that it is home of advantage, being that it is the seat of the presidency, and again, the council was just 6, and then the party in power is APC. On the other hand, we can also say that looking at what has happened, this is a test of what INEC is able to do or can do come 2027.
During other elections.
Yes, the general election. And then again, the other opposition parties will now look at it to say, oh, okay, based on what we have seen so far, then these are our weak points and these are our strengths, and so we have to build on our strengths and then try as much as possible to mitigate whatever losses that we have encountered now, and then plan better for next elections. Unlike the general elections that will have to involve the 36 states of the Federation, FCT election is a very small if you compare to other states that have 44 local governments, 30 local governments, 20-something local governments. And then again, you also see there's something that is also playing. Most of the smaller parties that makes a lot of noise on social media, from ground investigations, they also sell their votes. The candidates, but they knowing that, I'm not really going to win. Okay, let me bargain with my votes. Okay, those who are to vote me, okay, this I surrender my vote, or I give this my votes to social candidate of social party. So there were traits of between the candidates from those other smaller parties with the candidates of major parties that were likely to win the election. So these variables also was in play during the election.
I know that historically it's been a center of discussion, the FCT, I mean here, when you talk about determinants of a general election. That's because, of course, it's a seat of power. That's where the president is. And if he can, I remember so many arguments have come up with what happens with the FCT. And so do we, some way, see this as a prediction for the presidential election? Or is it too early to say we should be talking about what that outcome may look like?
Now, first, I will want to look at it from two angles.
All right.
One, it could be a prediction of what will happen come 2027 during the general election. If you look at the results coming from Rivers State and the by-elections in Rivers State and that of Kano.
Kano, right.
Yes. And then again, on the other hand, we'll say it is too early for us to conclude. First, party primaries for the general elections are yet to take place. And so between now and that time, a lot of alignment, realignments, partnership alliances may take place that will shape the outcome of the general elections in 2027. And so, for this reason, we cannot dismissively say the FCT election is what we say it or what is to come during the general elections come 2027.
The People's Democratic Party has inaugurated a legal team. Let's also not forget that the ADC, African Democratic Congress, candidate in AMAC alleged some sort of intimidation and vote buying. Well, you also mentioned something about that when we started this discussion. So what do you make of this kind of process? Looking at the narrative that we have, the trajectory that we are known to in Nigeria. Well, having confirmed that vote buying happened, should this have an impact on some kind of rerun or anything that could spring up with elections now that we have laws that seem to hold ground right now as we speak?
Okay. If we look at the reports or reported cases of vote buying, or as the protests or complaints registered by PDP and ADC, you see now the issue is the proof. If they are able to prove the incidents, and those incidents are enough to invalidate the AMAC elections, then that will call for a run. If their complaint is just based on the fact that they are losing and so they are crying foul, there's no proof, then there will be no need for call for election. However, those who are found culpable of vote buying should be prosecuted as contained in the Reform Electoral Bill. That will now serve as a deterrent to those who will be planning to, or parties that will be planning to replay the vote buying scenarios come 2027. Again, it will also, now it's a defining moment for INEC. I think the new INEC chairman, this is the first test. Okay, I think this should be, if you look at it, he has gotten a template for to kind of dress rehearse what is to come 2027. And so he will look at, okay, these are the cases or the reports, complaints you've gotten from these elections and by-elections. Therefore, these are the mechanisms we need to put in place to mitigate or even eliminate the occurrences of these incidents come 2027 general election.
Okay, talking about how to fight this battle of justifying or producing evidence of vote buying. Do videos on social media, for instance, do these count as anything to INEC as an electoral umpire, or these issues must be raised by political parties and candidates? Now, you have videos flying all over social media, newsmen capturing moments where votes were bought. Does this not, should this not shift something within the institution called INEC if it's to be an actual or real and transparent electoral umpire? Or are we going to wait till the parties affected? Now, when I say parties affected, candidates, political parties, stakeholders, and what have you, until they file these evidences, do we have to wait?
No, INEC should not wait. On the part of INEC, they have seen the reports, whether real or unreal. It is a signal for them to tighten up their security. It is a signal for them to fine-tune every mechanism put in place to ensure that elections are free and fair. However, as far as the results or the outcome of the elections are concerned, it is left for the parties affected to raise issues and then take them up. Otherwise, it will end at complaints and then INEC trying to take actions or put in place mechanisms to mitigate or eliminate these occurrences. For the results or the outcome of the elections, those are to be contested against by the opposition parties. So it is not the duty of INEC to now tell the opposition parties, look at it, to come and contest. It is the opposition parties who should take it up if they feel that this has affected their chances of winning the elections.
And do you think that could, I'm just thinking broadly now, do you think this could be worked on with our Electoral Act? I mean, it's just like somebody who sees, we talk about insecurity and we see somebody who shoots somebody on a video online, and I'm sure I've seen the police go after such people. It's not until a person particularly reports such cases. Can we not have the same happen with INEC? Is it going to be a long run, or do we just discard it and allow the affected persons, take charge of this kind of process?
Already, the electoral reforms are already put in place. If you look at some of the key reforms, they are supposed to, one, ensure that there is no vote buying. In fact, there are penalties for
Indeed.
vote buying.
Indeed.
So now, the reforms are already there. The bill is passed. So it is left for
Hello, are you with us? Okay. I will take some seconds off to get our analyst back on Prime Discourse this morning. You have been listening to my guest, Dr. Gabriel Lutu. Hello, are you there?
I'm here.
Okay, yes, you were putting your thoughts out to us. Please go ahead.
Noise. Now, I'm saying that it is being that the electoral reforms have been passed into law. It is now left for the umpire INEC to look at it and say, okay, these are reported cases of vote buying. These are the people or parties found culpable. And so they take it up from there and prosecute whoever is involved. If they are now found guilty, the penalty should be given out as a deterrent to others. Now, again, if you look at it politically, anywhere, even in advanced countries, though it may not appear to be that rampant, vote buying or inducement to vote for particular candidates also goes underground. So, while we are looking at vote buying in this particular election, it is also a warning to INEC that the law is there, the law has been put in place. It is then left for them to use the law to ensure that elections are free and fair by prosecuting whoever is found culpable, not minding the political party that is involved. So that if they start, they know that the law will be for every political party or every candidate, whether it is opposition or the ruling party.
Interesting. Now, for vote buying to happen, before we get to other issues, for vote buying to happen at any election or electoral process, during electoral process, you have people on ground that should probably cry out when such things starts to happen. And that's residents, 1, the voters, 2, you have security agencies, 3. Now, if you look at some of these videos, security agents were just around doing their normal thing. A pattern, you could call it, but how do we begin to address this? Because I doubt if that was touched. In that now we're holding INEC responsible to say, well, INEC as an umpire that should be trusted should, since we have an act, INEC should take charge and go through probably videos and what have you that you have coming in your report. So how do we handle the part of security agents who should be standing in that gap in such situations?
Oh, I think here it is now calling for an expansion of the electoral reform bill to capture this. You know, if you look at it, this side of the security agents being accomplice or complacent to the vote buying have not been captured. So it is a call to say, oh, look at this reform. From the key reforms, vote buying or the penalty for vote buying did not capture the security agents or security personnel who are on duty or on ground to forestall any incident of vote buying. And so if they are there and this is going on and they did not raise an alarm or they did not try to stop it, then what should be their penalty? Should it be outright dismissal from service, or they should be prosecuted too and sentenced? So these are some of the key takeaways from these elections to also fine-tune the electoral reforms. You know, it's a work in progress. So as elections come up, weaknesses are seen, noted, and then used to fine-tune it. I think gradually electoral reform bill will take shape as elections take place, loopholes are identified, and then measures are taken to also cover those loopholes. I think in this election now, one of the areas that need to be looked into as far as the electoral reform bill is concerned is the role of security personnel on ground, posted to polling units who fail to carry out their duties of preventing or raising alarm when cases of vote buying takes place. Again, in the polling unit also you have party agents too. So if there are cases or reports or complaints of vote buying, and party agents, especially the opposition party agents who are there, did not raise alarm, then it is as good as saying there was no vote buying.
Oh, wow. Okay, that's interesting. If you just tuned in, it's at 10:34 from Midas Radio 90.5 FM. We're broadcasting live from the capital city, Ado Ekiti. For about 30 minutes, I have been discussing developments, controversies trailing the FCT municipal election, which happened only over the weekend. And of course, in some other areas, elections occurred, local council elections occurred in 3 other states. And we're trying to unravel, we're trying to reveal if this plays any or pushes forward anything we must consider if we talk about the growth of our elections, particularly when we're looking at elections in states like Ekiti, Oshu, and the general elections across Nigeria next year, 2027. I have been speaking with a public affairs analyst in Abuja, Dr. Gabriel Otu. Okay, Dr. Gabriel.
Yes.
Okay, now, amid all of these developments, the National Assembly has ratified a new law. You have spoken briefly about that just in the course of this discussion, introducing a 2-year jail term for any rec who withholds sensitive materials, a special fund to guarantee INEC's financial autonomy, structural changes around primaries, funding, and timeline. So let's start with this. Now, the sanctions captured by this amendment, what's your reaction to this? Are they just fine with you? And let's see, what sanctions have made your day since all of this was amended?
If you look at the key reforms, at least for the first time, penalties of jail term were given or are put in place for those found culpable, especially the resident electoral officers. You know, I think there was a case where they said at one polling unit, the materials were not there, and then it appears it was not given, or it was not taken, or it was sent to a different polling unit. So, if you look at it critically, one will say, is this a way of trying to delay the release of electoral materials? And so, this is one of the finest of the electoral reform bill, given especially the resident electoral commissioners. Again, it is not totally what we are advocating for, because other than the resident electoral commissioners, you have other key players and stakeholders who contribute to elections malpractice, and so they are also to be captured. Then again, the electoral reform bill too did not make provision voters too. The voters who accept inducement to vote, who also sell their votes or even their cards, they were rumors that some persons sell their voters card for certain amounts of money. So such voters, what should be done to them? What provision has been made in the electoral reform bill to ensure that these are dealt with? In fact, any registered voter with a valid voter's card should be asked anytime he or she complains that I don't have my voter's card, I can't find it. They should be interrogated and investigated. How did you lose your voter's card? Did you sell it? Because by selling your voter's card, you are indirectly at the personal level truncating the smooth progress of democracy in Nigeria, especially with regards to elections. And so when citizens complain, they too should be held responsible for, because if somebody, a party official comes to you or a party agent comes to you with an inducement and you refuse, they won't kill you. And so if you deliberately, willingly accept inducement to sell your vote or even sell a voter's card, then you're as guilty as the political party or the political agent or even the resident electoral commissioner who withholds electoral materials or delays the release of electoral materials. You are also as guilty as party thugs who intimidate or coerce people for voting for a particular candidate or preventing them from not voting. So the electoral reform bill did not capture this set of people, especially the voters. Again, the electronic transmission of results, I think it is now a settled matter that results will be and have to be transmitted electronically from polling units even before the results are announced, so that everyone could view it wherever he or she is. Now, it is not something that we are going to get it all at once. We take steps as we move on or go ahead. We keep correcting ourselves until we get to a point where we will say we have a free and fair election, even though no matter the level of development, no matter the level of reform, there will still be some form of complaints of malpractice or whatever it is. But we should beat our chest and say that we have reached a point where all the variables that are being in play over the years have now been eliminated, so that candidates chosen by the people are the ones who end up winning the election.
Right.
So,
now, let's look at the special fund to guarantee INEC's financial autonomy. What's your position on this? Now, but will financial autonomy genuinely shield INEC from pressure?
Exactly. In fact, that is another area, another excellent key reform in the electoral reform bill. Financial autonomy. At some point, if one was supposed to use 1 billion naira to conduct an election, and what was released was just 500 million, it will affect everything, that from logistics to even the voting. And so, if INEC, as contained in the reform electoral bill, is independent, it means that we will not be able to hold INEC responsible if things are not done rightly, from logistics to provision of electoral materials and the voting process itself. They will not have any reason to complain that money budgeted was not released, and so there was they could not do this and they could not do that. Again, it will also eliminate or reduce undue influence from the executive.
Now, I'm quite concerned about the undue influence, that part.
Yes. So when money is released, there is a fund set aside. And so the undue influence would have been reduced to the barest minimum, even though it cannot be completely eliminated. It will be reduced to the barest minimum, being that INEC already has a fund kept aside for it, and so they don't need to ask anyone for permission to use it, or even continuously going to the executive for release of funds. I think this is one of the major breakthroughs in the electoral reform bill. Thank you.
Let's also review for a few minutes before I allow the listener be a part of the conversation right now. Structural changes to around primaries, around funding, around timelines. One major hot story that's been quite controversial is about pushing the presidential election a little bit backward, or you take it forward. But I think most of the conversation has been bringing it backward, that is January, December, and what have you. Very quickly, so that we don't muddle all of the questions up. What's been your position on that?
I think, again, the dates for the elections, especially the presidential elections, should remain the way it is. Pushing them backward or forward will also affect all the activities of government and non-governmental organizations. Let me put it that way. Nothing is wrong with the date. Is the fact that the presidential elections comes first before the governorship elections. I would have preferred the governorship elections coming first before the presidential elections. So much that it will also add weight to how the outcome of the presidential
election.
Yes, yes. And then again, the reform that mandates parties to now have an electronic database of registration is also very good. So INEC will be able to check and checkmate who are party members. And again, it will also make it available for those who want to know about party membership across both the ruling and opposition parties across the nation. So situations where before, or you have people who just become party members overnight and they are given tickets. Now with this reform, this issue will be eliminated. It means that you must have registered electronically before any other thing is done physically, so or manually. So I think this is another way of checkmating the SSCs of political parties and all other malpractices that follow cross-carpeting of politicians from one party to the other. For instance, you contested in one party, you lost at the primaries, you now run to another party and then pick up the ticket to contest. These are issues that have been there, and I think this reform electoral bill has tried to eliminate or mitigate their occurrences in the future.
Now, going back to the main question I was asking earlier before I broke it down to that, we're talking about structural changes. A lot of things were amended with that bill. But just like you have said, it appears we'll still have a whole lot of reforms to also consider looking at this. But first, the structural changes we have right now, do you say that we're still very good to go without considering the other parts that we have not touched? Talking about reforms, are we still good to go? Are we on the right path?
I will say, for the first time, we are on the right track, even though a lot still needs to be done. In fact, what gladdens my heart is the fact that the move has been done the step has been taken to reform. And so the areas I feel also that the reform should look into carefully is the money budgets for electioneering campaigns. According to the reform bill, there were revisions in how much should be spent for senators. For president, it was revised from 5 billion to 10 billion. For God's sake, why are we using this kind of money for only elections? 10 billion, and then governors from 1 billion to 3 billion, senators from 100 million to 500 million. These monies are so exorbitant that with 10 billion, some local governments should have been turned into cities. Schools should be built. Health centers should be built. Hospitals that are near comatose should be revitalized and restructured. Certain equipments, very important key equipments in hospitals that are lacking in Nigeria should have been purchased with this kind of money. And so when you leave this amount of money in the hands of politicians, it will encourage the vote buying and all other inducements that follow, leading to unfair elections. So I think that is one of the misgivings of the electoral reform.
Now, having said this, the last question for you this morning, before we allow some questions or comments on Prime Discourse. Do we begin to push for these reforms before Ekiti election, perhaps? I think that's the closest to us before we get to Osun State and then other areas. Do we start to push for these? Do we try to see if we can achieve them? Do we have the time for it?
Now, I think, though one would say that the time frame is short, that does not stop us from pushing for further reforms, more reforms.
Okay.
No matter the time it will take, let us start pushing now. It should be in the front burner of reforms that should be taken or that should be considered as we look forward to the Ekiti and Osun State elections.
Okay, interesting. Let's have some comments, reactions to this discussion this morning. 0915 090 5905. 0915 090 5905. 0704 100 1905. 0704 100 1905. Or you reach us on WhatsApp. 0915 190 5905. WhatsApp 0915 190 5905. It's time for you to be a part of this conversation. We're talking about the FCT elections and what that portends for the coming elections, INEC's preparedness for the coming elections, and what have you. Hello, good morning.
Yeah, good morning.
A beautiful morning to you.
Thank you. I'm calling you from Kogi State.
Okay, let's hear you, please.
Thank you. So, you mentioned 10 billion naira for presidential campaign. Is that not too much? Is it not a way of bribing or settlement of the election? Thank you.
Okay, so he has a question for you, Dr. Otu. He says that money for presidential election, is it not a space to allow a lot of irregularities when it comes to the electoral process?
Exactly. That is one of the points I raised. The money is too much. It is imitating rather than reducing electoral malpractice. So you increase the figures. It is now giving leverage for vote buying and inducement and whatever it is that needs to be done. So for me, instead of increasing, there should have been a reduction in how much should be spent during electioneering campaigns.
Okay, let me take another caller this morning. Hello, good morning. Oh, we lost that. Please call us again, 0915 090 5905. 0915 090 5905, or call 0704 100 1905, 0704 100 1905, or WhatsApp 0915 190 5905. WhatsApp 0915 190 5905. All right then, Dr. Gabriel Otu. In the absence of any reactions for now, how do you charge Nigerians going forward, moving ahead, as we get ready for elections? INEC, the electoral umpire, and other stakeholders who should be playing each one part or the other when it comes to electoral development or electoral process.
Let me start with the voters, the Nigerians. First, the most important issues should not be the voting itself. It should be in ensuring that whoever is to be voted for is not voted based on religious, ethnic, or whatever bias. Rather, it should be people who are capable, who possess the capability to serve this nation and develop it. Again, they should know that when you sell your vote, when you are induced to vote wrongly, you will be the one to suffer for the next 4 or 8 years. And so, the voting itself should be a product of conviction that the right candidate is voted for. Again, they should ensure that their vote counts. That means when you vote, you don't go home. You stay put to ensure that your vote is counted and announced as voted. To INEC as the electoral umpire, it is a trial now with the elections that have been that just concluded and that is coming up. They are to tighten up their seatbelts and stand the test of time, because time will tell whether INEC has failed Nigerians, or they have lived or stood the test of time. They can help this country to the line of proper democratic development. And then for politicians, they should know that whatever you do, however you do it, you have a time frame to serve the people. And when you leave power, you will still meet the things you could not do or you did not do. And the people in question will hold you responsible. Again, this country belongs to all. All stakeholders must be in top gear to ensure that elections are conducted in a serene environment, free and fair, so that voters will vote freely without being intimidated or coerced, and then candidates of the people, the choice of the people, will be those who win elections. We should also know that we cannot have a perfect reform or a perfect election overnight. It is an experiment that we keep doing until we have perfected the craft of electioneering to ensure that vote counts and leaders are held responsible. Again, finally, I would say that it should not also stop at announcing the winners of elections. The electoral reform bill and even the constitution provide for mechanisms to check whether politicians, elected politicians or representatives, are actually doing their duties for which they were elected. There are also mechanisms to withdraw the mandate of any politician or elected representative who have failed in his or her duty. And so we shouldn't stop at the elections after announcement of results. Okay, we leave the country to its fate until another elections. It should be a system whereby from the announcement of results, elected representatives are held responsible, no matter who they are, the political parties they belong to, up to the next election time.
Okay.
So, yeah, thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. A public affairs analyst who's been with us in the last 1 hour on Prime Discourse on Midas Radio 90.5 FM. Thank you very much, Dr. Gabriel Otu, for speaking with us today.
Thank you, Madam Bukola. It's
All
a
right,
pleasure
then.
being on it.
All right, then. Okay, so that's a Prime Discourse on Midas Radio 90.5 FM. This Monday. Another time to join us will be next Monday, 10 to 11 a.m. I am BUKOLA, FORTUNE-OMOSOLA. Have a beautiful week. Bye-bye.